Welcome to VAFA Tragics, and thank you for joining us. We have a huge show planned today, and we have a special guest for the second week in a row. He's the Amateur Footballer Coordinator, our Premier C scribe, and last year he won the 2016 Division 1 Reserves Grand Final with St Mary's Sledging. Please join me in welcoming Mitch Obdoog.
Thanks very much, Nick. It's good to be here. I'm a bit nervous, got sweaty palms. Haven't been this nervous since the Grand Final last year. But I'm looking forward to talking about Premier C and some hot topics later in the show. So
well, I hope it's reminiscent because that was a pretty good outcome for you
Yeah, it
guys.
ended well for me, yeah. Maybe not personally, but for the team it was all right. So hopefully you guys can carry me along.
Excellent. We look forward to it. Brenton, welcome back to you.
Nick, Mitch, the man's prepared. It's good. It's good. He's already mentioned his premiership win.
Didn't take long.
Didn't take long.
I'll try and mention that as much as I can.
Yeah. Ding every time he mentions it. But we'll roll straight into our favourite segment of the week. Lenny Watch. The man, he's taking it to a new level this week. He's in Cannes. Just getting in front of the line for the film festival, the Cannes Film Festival. He's sunning himself on the beaches of Antibes. Now he's just rolled straight into Hong Kong. The man he's out of control on Instagram, but he looks like he's having a fantastic time as we freeze our butts off in Melbourne at the moment. But he's taken on feedback, which is fantastic. That's what we love to see on the Tragics. His lovely wife Michelle is she's in the corner of some of his Instagram posts.
She's found her way in.
She snuck her way in, much to the chagrin of the
Only
great
took
man.
her 2 weeks.
It took her 2 weeks, and it's been fantastic. Lenny, thank you for watching the Tragics over in France and now Hong Kong.
Most certainly. We look forward to having Lenny back next week and tell us all about his trip. Let's roll straight into performance of the week. Brenton, I'll throw straight back to you.
I'm going to go down to Mount Lilydale. Stephen Donald's 6 majors takes his tally to 19 for the year. In their thrilling 5-point win over the Manningham Cobras, the Rams now equal second on the ladder with Aquinas Cobras fourth. That'll be the classic 8-point game, you assume?
It was.
Fantastic effort by Stephen.
No, absolutely. Mount Lilydale looking the goods down there in Division 4. Mitch, performance of the week?
So I'm going to be a little bit biased here. I'm a St Mary's man. On Saturday night, we've had our first club function, the biggest function of the year. We've had the club ball. We've got 2 new teams this year. We've got 2 women's teams. The club's been great. We're flying in the ones. We've got 5 on the trot. And on Saturday night at the ball, Michael Learmonth, Leo, as he's affectionately known, he's just rallied the troops. He's got all 300 of us. Got on the chair, got the microphone, and he's just led the chant, got the Rucha-cha going, and everyone was up and about. It had to be seen to be believed, and I think we've got some footage you can see of that. And it's just a great year down at St Mary's, so that's my player of the week, goes to you, Leo.
And that's twice already. He's spoken twice.
Glenorius has been rocking, wasn't it, on Saturday night?
Oh, absolutely.
Fantastic.
It was. Great performance of the week. Mine goes to Richmond Central, down in Division 3. They've had their first senior win in 628 days. They've been rocked by injury early in the season, but got close to Canterbury in round 1 and within 21 points of the ladder-leading UHSVU last week. They finally got it done over Albert Park by 81 points, and from all reports, they celebrated accordingly on Saturday night. So I don't think St Mary's Solution was the only place going off on Saturday
Kevin
night.
Bartlett Oval was rocking as well, wasn't it?
Absolutely, Snake Nation. Let's get into it. Collegians and St Kevin's both had their best wins for the year on the weekend, and I was at the Inter FM match of the round between St Kevin's and Zabs. St Kevin's came along and won by 11 points after trailing by 5 goals at 3/4 time. They really flexed their muscle with 6-6 to 1 point in the final term. Anthony Lynch was instrumental in the ruck contest, kicked a go-ahead goal, and Ben Dowd, for mine, was the best player on the ground, and his clearance work throughout the entire game was absolutely elite. And the only player that I think stacked up close was either Anthony Lynch or Stephen Salopek, who in his second game back was just taking contested grabs across half-back and across the wing area there and sending it inside 50. It was a fantastic performance by him. Brendan Goss returned to form for the Zabs, as he does in the big games, with 7 goals. Unfortunately, they weren't able to get it done, but I think it was the Zabs' most complete performance. I know it was only 3/4, but maybe more so than other weeks where they're turning on in a quarter and getting it done.
They were doing it in bursts, weren't they?
They were. They had these 7-goal bursts maybe once a game, and it was enough to get it done. But it was a fantastic effort by St Kevin's to come back. But does it put them now? Collegians are still also undefeated. Does it put St Kevin's ahead of them as flag favourites?
I think that'll come down to this week. St Kevin's beat Collegians at Harry Trott Oval. That could decide who is the out-and-out premiership favourite. Now, the Collegians beat Old Trinity on the weekend by 33 points in a very good display. 7 goals to 2 in the first quarter really set them up well. Now, but the next 4 weeks for Collegians is really they've got a tough 4 weeks coming up. They've got 3 50-50 games. One against Scobs this week, You got a game against D-Lar at Waverley Oval, who are sitting in 4th, and they're really starting to motor. I'm going to give them the win against Uni Blues at Melbourne Uni Oval, but they finished the month with Zabs at Harry Trott, so they could be 6-3, they could be 7-2, 8-1. They could have a dream run against those 3 tough sides and be 9-0. But the thing about Collegians is St Kevin's and Zabs have a very cushy, some would say cushy draw. They could be 8-1 or 9. I've got them 8-1 or 9-0, both of them by the turn at the halfway mark. Of the season.
You've done well to avoid the question there.
Yes.
Who is flag favourites, St Kevin's or Collegians? Going into this weekend, you understand that'll play a role, but right now,
I'm going to say St Kevin's purely for the fact that Collegians are yet to play a top 4 side. Now, this is the real test for Collegians. They've got to take a scalp. And if they take the scalp of St Kevin's this week, then they are out and out premiership favourites by the end of the weekend. But at the moment, Scobs.
In the other games, Uni Blacks and OMs had their first wins, which was fantastic. But we'll move back to the Collegians game because they've defeated Old Trinity.
Yeah.
And that's Old Trinity's 3rd loss in a row. Is it worrying signs?
It is worrying signs because the last 3 losses have come against the big 3, Collegians, Zabs and Scobs. So if they're going to play finals, these are the teams they need to beat. They won their first 2 games. The thing about Old Trinity is their best players are playing. Injuries have curtailed them over the last few years, but they've still made grand finals but haven't got to the ultimate holy grail. So the last 2 years, have they started to take their toll? So you've got guys like Kiriakopoulos, Tinney, Hunt, Osborne, Pachoni, Jurek and Nicolosi have played all 5 games, so the best players are on the park. But they haven't lost, they haven't been thumped yet, so they've been in every game. Brendan Yetzi's paid 3. He missed one with a wedding. Weddings during footy season is another topic for another day. But Trinity have got, in the next 2 months, they play, I think it's 5 out of the next 8 at Daily Oval. So they've got a big couple of months coming up, then we might know a bit more about Trinity. I wouldn't write them off just yet, they're a fantastic side.
Absolutely not. Trinity, absolutely not. Like you said, they've played the 3 undefeated sides at the time that they've played them. And I wouldn't say they've got a completely healthy list by any means. I mean, Ned Hunt, they've lost for the season. Ed Weatherson was out last week. And Kiriakopoulos has a foot injury. I know he's playing through it because he's an absolute warrior, but he is not getting around as naturally as he usually would. Now, Mitch, gaps are well and truly appearing in William Buck Premier B, Division 1 and Division 2 so far, between the top 3 sides and the rest. There are a couple of games in between. Mm-hmm. If you look at these ladders on your screen now, Collegians, St Kevin's and Zabs are ahead of the next tier of D-Lar, OT and the Blues. Brighton, Scotch and St Bernard's far away ahead of the next tier. St Mary's in your own division, Pegs and Preston Bullants looking the goods in Division 1. And down Division 2, West Brunswick, Paran Assumption and Yarra Old Grammarians are creating a buffer down there between them and the rest of the competition. But in Premier C, there is just 2 games separating 1st and 9th. Now, I want to use Old Ivanhoe as a case study. They lost to Old Camberwell and Hampton Rovers, but defeated Old Haileybury and Old Mentonians. So is it as tight as we believe, or are there gaps appearing in Premier C?
Look, I wrote about this in the amateur football last week, and I said it was quite an even spread, and it's going to be a tough competition. But I think in round 5, we saw a few teams put their hands up and really step up to the plate and sort of assert their intentions for 2017. You mentioned Old Ivanhoe getting those 2 big wins. They've also fallen to Old Camberwell and Hampton Rovers, which they probably should have won on paper. But when they've needed to play, they've stepped up. So they beat Old Haileybury. I mean, you could say they were unlucky. They did kick 5 goals, 21.
Yes,
so they didn't have their kicking boots on that day. But on the weekend, they had a great win over Mentonians, who were looking hot. They were down by 6 at half time, and then they've come back 35 points, win in the end, which is a nice win. Sam Gillings was bog again. He's been having a great year. And Michael Delmont kicked 3. So I think they're a bit of an outlier when it comes to the gaps. I think Old Haileybury and Caulfield. For mine, they're looking the goods, and I think in the coming weeks you're going to see the same trend happen in Premier C where the gaps are dividing. Cause Old Haileybury on the weekend, convincing win over Old Camberwell, 120 odd points. So
that was surprising.
Yeah, that was surprising. Gun sides too, Old Haileybury and Grammarians, especially Caulfield, very good young gun side. Now, Old Ivanhoe, this has been a trend over the last couple of years. It's the consistency of their inconsistency. They play well against the good sides, but possibly don't play well against sides they should be beating.
Well, we have talked about it for more than 12 months.
They got up your go last year.
They did. It's really, but it is quite frustrating because you look at the team, and I know you don't win games on paper.
No.
But when you've got the team and the setup they do, Adrian Del Monte's not there playing at the moment, he's overseas, and he's a huge out.
Yeah.
He's a machine, kicked over 40 goals last year. But when you've got a team of that much talent, it just is bewildering and something I've not been able to put my finger on. Maybe as Premier C scribe this year, you can do that, and maybe we can work it out. But Old Ivanhoe, at their best, are a flag contender at their best. Interesting to see how it all pans out in Premier C. That's all we've got for right now. Let's go to a break, and we'll be back with more VAFA Tragics after this.
Anytime is the right time to get fit at Anytime Fitness. Access over 400 gyms across the country 24/7 and discover why more Australians train at Anytime Fitness than any other gym. Go online and register now for your free 7-day pass and feel something better.
Thanks for sticking with us. Now, competitive balance is a key aspect of community football and one of the most important components of participation rates. Now, should consideration be given to regrading reserves game each year? Now, stick with me, boys. I'll give you the Division 1 results over the weekend. 4 games were decided by more than 100 points. Ormond defeated Oakley by 134. St Mary's Sledging defeated Whitefriars by 162. Pegs by 136 over Therry. And Ivanhoe defeated St John's by 112. Like, they're astronomical numbers. Under-19s are regraded by the Football Operations Department after 3 to 5 rounds each year to ensure competitive balance is as good as it can be. Should we consider regrading reserves each year?
For mine, I mean, I played in one of those big losses, and I mean, we had the win. But I've been on the other side of that, and it isn't much fun when you're losing week in, week out. But as a reserves team, I think a big part of playing is you play before your ones, and then you stick around to support your first team, and it just really builds the culture of the club. And I think for me, that's more important. So if you look at grading and you've got your reserves playing over in Dandenong and your ones playing in Richmond, and it sort of separates the club, and it's not really what you want at a community level. I think it's really, like, participation level is also driven by the culture of the club. So it would put a spanner in the works there for me. I don't think it could happen.
Brenton, what's your take?
I'm along the same lines as Mitch here. I've been on the end of a number more than I'd like to be. Massive defeats at reserve grade level. It's not fun, but yes, I'm with Mitch. It would be logistically, I think it would be very tough. So for me, in the divisions, one of the toughest obstacles you face is travel, because with the promotion and relegation of sides, you are playing one week you're in Bulleen, 1 week you're in Dandenong, 1 week you're in Hobbs Crossing, 1 week you're in Eltham. So what happens if you're playing, say, in Eltham, and Westbourne 1 week is playing at Eltham, and their reserves are playing, I don't know, out at Bulleen or something like that, or even down at Chadstone or something like that.
Yep.
What happens if you get an injury in the seniors? You need to call one of your reserves players up, and you've got 50 kilometres between reserves and seniors. I think for me, I don't think it would work. I mean, it's a great topic because I think getting smacked every week is not fun at all, and it dents the spirit of players.
But in terms of that, it does dent the spirits of players. And you say that having them at the same ground is good for the culture. But what about at the end of the day? Like, one team's had a win and another's been smacked by 200 points. Like, say, Old Carey had a 200 point win over Peninsula on the weekend. Like, how is that good for the culture?
It's not. No, it's not. It's not great. I understand where you're coming from there. But if they want to introduce this, I think they could possibly rethink an idea that they tabled. I don't know if the VAFA tabled. I don't know if the clubs tabled. The regrading of divisions into regions could work, and then it could work. Say you've got a southern region, and then obviously southern region, northern region. I don't know. I think you just have to do southern and northern. Maybe make the city your neutral venue, and then you just go from the southern and northern and western from there. But I think as it stands now, I don't think it'll work logistically. But I see where you're coming from, and it's a great topic, and one we might be able to go down the track with.
So we'll move on to women's football now. And one of the talking points leading into the season was the quarter length of 20 minutes with no time on. And would it be too much? Would it be too little for the women's, especially in this development year? Do we feel at the moment that 20 minutes plus no time on, Brenton, is the right length of time.
I think they could possibly strip it back to maybe 15 or 18 minutes. Because I think 20 minutes, in VAFA footy, you wouldn't get a lot of time on, I don't think, per quarter.
Oh, yeah, 37-minute quarters in Premier.
Well, that's an outlier. You can't really bring that up. But maybe strip it back to maybe 15 or 18 minutes.
But you say 15 minutes, and then they're travelling for an hour-long game.
Yeah, that's true. I think we'd have to ask the women who are playing.
Well, we have.
Yep.
Funny thing you say that. We have asked, and most find that 15-minute quarters, which would be the likely alternative, are too short. Because a lot of them, and we've got a lot of feedback has said that how much the women enjoy the fitness aspect of it. So 15 being a lot short, an hour-long game, but 20-minute quarters gives them that length of time to make changes to their fitness, I guess.
Yep. Well, I think as well, given that it's the first year that the VAFA's had a women's competition, and it's for a lot of the women playing, it's their first year as well. So I've got my girlfriend and my sister are both playing. They've never played footy before, and they come home, they love every minute of it. Even they've been flogged by 200 points, they loved every minute of it. So if you shorten it, and like you said, they're travelling for an hour game, it sort of takes fun out of it. And also for these women to progress and develop, the only way they're going to get better is by playing football. Yeah. So if you cut it back, it's going to limit the growth of the VAFA competition, I think. It's just going to hurt the competitive nature of it. So I think 20 minutes for the development and growth of all the players and the VAFA as well, I think 20 minutes is spot on. Yeah.
Most certainly. It's worth noting that in finals they will be 15 minutes with time on. So that's for all women's finals. So it won't just stick to the 20 minutes with no time on. But we'll move on to something that's very topical in the football world at the moment, and that's sledging. And more importantly, between players. So over the weekend, we've seen sledging and the possible repercussions of it played out in the AFL with Carlton's Mark Murphy against St Kilda. Long has it been a tactic to get into the heads of opponents, but is there a place for sledging, and we'll bring it more local, in the VAFA game?
Yes, I believe there is a place for sledging within the realms of what is appropriate. Nothing racial, nothing directed towards anyone's family member. If it's on field, completely on field, that I believe that there is a definite place for sledging. The mental side of the game is extremely important. There's nothing better, Nick, than getting under the skin of someone and then you just run with it. And I've played with and against some of the best sledgers you'll find. Some come from this man's club as well. They're pretty good on the lip. But I believe there is a place for it. But what is appropriate, nothing racial, nothing directed towards anyone's sexual orientation, family, whatever. Just keep it on the field, keep it about the game, and I believe there is a place for it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think like any sports, the mental side of it is equally as important. So if you can get on top of your opponent by sledging them in an appropriate manner, I think there's definitely a place for it.
But that's where the ambiguity becomes in an appropriate manner. Use your discretion. I mean, if we just outlawed sledging completely, it completely takes it out, and it completely takes out the ambiguity as well. I mean, we're there to win games of football based on skill sets. I know it is a mental game, but at the end of the day, when things are brought up, they shouldn't be brought up. And because sledging is appropriate within our culture, it means people will err on that side of danger. Yeah. So I think, anyway, whatever your opinion on it, there's no right or wrong.
No, that's why it's an opinion. Nick. Everyone's got one.
That's exactly right. And that is all we have time for tonight, boys. Thank you for joining us. Mitch, special thanks to you.
Thanks. Yeah, feeling good listening up. Just getting started, I feel.
He might be a return.
I think he could be a return. He could be a regular.
How do you think he'll go fines-wise compared to Josh Cowan
No,
last
he's in
week?
for I'd take out a little loan, I think. Josh only got $10 is got very lightly.
He got away
They're not
with
harsh
it.
enough down there. It's the Beastman Tigers.
Absolutely not. He really got away with it. Thank you for joining us on another episode of VAFA Tragics. Make sure you stay tuned for Tragic Take. We thank the boys, we thank you, and join us again next week for another episode of the Tragic. We all know the VAFA is a family-friendly competition, and we love seeing players, grandparents, partners, and children coming down for a friendly game of VAFA football. And what is better than seeing family members get on the ground for a kick of the footy sometime during the day? Even these guys. Late in the second quarter of the blockbuster clash between St Kevin's and Old Zavarians, two furry friends entered the field and briefly held the game up while they enjoyed everything TH King Oval had to offer. They were scouring Scobb's forward 50, but if you ask John Canis, They weren't even dogs.
That dog, it looks like a marsupial.
Yes,
An amphibious marsupial that's come out of Gardner's Creek.
Now, they failed to register a stat, but it's good to know that even in the heat of the battle, even in the biggest game of William Buck Premier so far this year, we can stop and we can appreciate these little guys' love for the game.